Warning, the following opinions are that of my own and not of the larger whole of any fandom. Also, while major adult content will never be shown and or allowed, some adult language may be used at any time. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hopefully the test with the new headset goes well, or it will crash and burn. You decide. Hello, everyone.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't realize you were doing the intro.
You're fine. I'll just do it again.
No, we should keep it this way. It's
Yeah.
do it live.
Yeah. We're doing it live. Screw it.
It sounds great, by the way. It sounds really good.
Thank you very much. But yeah. Hi, guys. This is Zeltrex Millennium, a.k.a. Jesse Elias, with Sean Chiplock.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I apparently need to be heard as soon as things go live. You know, that's just what it's like being an actor. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate that you made the time for me.
No problem. I have a lot more free time on my hands due to other stuff happening in my life, and of course, after you COVID.
Of course. But you know what? I heard you're vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. I'm still taking a lot of time off from public things just because I'm trying to avoid giving incentive for people who avoided vaccination to feel rewarded for not doing it. But within the next year, I would say I'm going to start filtering back into the things I want to be a part of.
Yeah. I haven't really mentioned it on my channel, but yeah, I have gotten vaccinated with both shots of the Pfizer vaccine. This is probably going to be the only time when I talk about it, because otherwise it would just get bogged down.
Of course.
Among other things. But yeah. I got Sean here. We got a bunch of questions to get through. So first off with an icebreaker. It's a bit of a normal question for an icebreaker, but if you were able to meet any of the characters you voiced in anime or video games, which one of them would you want to have a conversation with?
If I was able to meet any of them?
Yeah.
Let me see here. Which ones would I actually want to have a conversation with? It might be really interesting to have a chat with Pewter from AI The Somnium Files, regarding just like his thoughts on things and, his scientific advancements. Someone else that I'd like I know everyone wants to know which of the Breath of the Wild characters I'd want to talk to. And between the two, I would have to honestly say Teba, just because I wouldn't get to just talk to Teba. I'd probably also get to say hi to Saki. And 2 for 1 is a great deal. I'm sorry, but like if you talk to Rivali, you're going to get everything from Rivali's point of view.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I would have to say D-Luke, just because he is a man who enjoys grape juice rather than wine. And I have always used to be that kind of person that enjoyed sparkling grape juice rather than wine or alcohol at New Year's Eve parties. And so if this man is rich enough to, afford whatever his tastes desire and also is a really big fan of grape juice, I want to have whatever grape juice he's having. I want to know what he's drinking. I think it would be really good.
Nice. But yeah, after that, we got a couple of questions from Twitter people. It's like, we don't have that many. I was like, I'm disappointed in you guys.
I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of, if there's people who attended previous interviews, they may have felt like they heard most of the questions they wanted answered. And it also is just a matter of channel growth, The longer you've been doing this, the more people you'll have following and the more chances you'll have for people to have questions they want to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly started doing interviews like a couple of months ago.
Right.
But yeah, first question from Crispy Clean X from Twitter. Was voice acting/acting something you knew you wanted to do as a kid, or was it something you strived for later in life?
It was not something I knew I wanted to do as a kid, but it's still, the answer is yes to that in terms of, was it something that I knew I wanted to do once I understood what it was? Because I didn't really discover or understand what voice acting was until junior year of high school. So I was already 16, 17 years old at that point. But as soon as I figured out what voice acting was, that was the first time that something in my life had really just gripped me as I want to do this for my own reasons, not because I'm being pushed to do it, not because I'm being required to do it, not because it's being recommended to me. I feel personally driven to be involved with this. And then as soon as that feeling came in, it never went away. I just stuck with it, and I kept doing it. And Yeah, no, it's really as simple as that. Like once I knew what voice acting was, I wanted it to be a part of my life, and it's been that way ever since.
Sweet. All right. Next up, we got two questions from your boy Toxics. First one is, how do you warm up / cool down before and after a long recording session?
So the warm-up before, I'll be the first to admit I'm not the best about doing extensive warm-ups before my recording sessions, but there'll be a little bit of physical warming up. You know, I'll stretch my body out because I'm a method actor. I'm also I'm trying to think of what the word is. I'm a kinesthetic type of person. I like to make the poses that my character would make while they're talking. And of course, voice acting in general is going to use different parts of your body. You know, you're going to use your chest, you're going to use your lungs, you're going to pull from your diaphragm, from your stomach. So working out your core is really important. I'll also, sing bars and stuff like that. I'll hum just to warm up my throat. There's these things called music straws that you can like blow through in order to like constrict your throat and kind of realign your vocal cords or your passage in general. And I'll do that just to get an idea for if my range is a little restricted that day, if my high range is going to be a little harder. It's also just a good check-in to see how my vocal health is doing. After a session, very frequently, I will just make sure I'm hydrated both before and after, to be honest, and during. At all points of the day, I should be staying hydrated. But if I've been working pretty extensively or if I've been doing a vocally stressful session, the best way to recover is to just stay hydrated and shut up. Because what causes the throat wear and tear is talking, whether it's doing interviews or streaming or recording for sessions. And so if what caused the wear and tear is talking, then sensibly the easiest way for it to repair is to not be talking. So it can be tough to enact that consistently, to like let people know, hey, I'm going to minimize talking. I'm going to, respond via text whenever possible. But when it comes to keeping my career intact and making sure that I can meet the deadlines of the jobs that I've been assigned and be ready to go during the sessions that I've scheduled, sometimes I just have to act accordingly. There's been days where I've canceled streams because I don't want to take the risk of wearing my throat down anymore before the next session.
That's really good. That's a really good thing to know. Anyway, next question. Sorry.
No, I just said yeah.
Cool. All right. Next one up from your boy Toxic. What is your trump card when asked to improvise something for an audition?
It's not very often that I actually have the opportunity to ad-lib something for an audition. If I have to improvise something, oh God, it's hard to answer because I can't really even think of the last time I've done that. And I don't know if that's just because it's fallen out of favor or if that's because, well, it's not your fault. It's an insightful question. But I don't know if that's because it's fallen out of favor or if that's because I'm just not as good an actor as I think I am and I haven't been that creative. In cases where I've been told to like make up a line or something like that, I usually will default to like reading the character bio in that character's voice just because it gives you a good idea of like how they would approach or how their mannerisms are when they're talking. If I just have to come up with a single line, generally I'll say something that matches with their personality. Like if they're described as haughty or holier than thou, it'll be something to the effect of, how dare you come and speak to me? Something like that. Maybe not that generic, but like something that fits the tone of the world that they're in.
All right, that's a good one. Now I got a few questions here that I wrote down, and one of the first ones is that, due to my current reinvention of myself, I have been able to check out many shows and animes as there's just so many to keep track of these days. Heck, I barely even have enough time for video games. I'm so swamped. How do you find the time to do it all?
Like how do I find the time to game and record and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I don't, to be honest. I used to have a lot more time for gaming, and like maybe after this interview I'll have a couple of hours, but what happens as time goes by and as life goes on is that sections of time get replaced with other things. So for a long time, what I was doing was I would have studio sessions, and then a lot of my afternoons would be spent recording whatever auditions I had on Voice 123. And then when those were done is when I would game. So I'd usually have between 5 to 6 hours a day for gaming. Well, there was a massive shift after the pandemic happened that just
Mhm.
kind of came about because when the pandemic started is around when I decided to start finally trying my hand at streaming, which turned out way better than I expected. Um, and now there's a whole community that I help interact with. There's a whole Discord server that I help run. There's people that really enjoy my content and they've found it as sort of a comfortable place to be, especially while they were riding out the pandemic. I don't know if that's going to change now that a lot more people are getting vaccinated. But what
Yeah.
happened as a result of that was that I had all of my sessions happening from home. My clientele has grown, so I've got even more freelance jobs and auditions than a couple years ago. And now I'm dedicating between 3 to 5 hours to streaming 5 days a week. So it often happens, first of all, I don't even do a lot of auditions for Voice 123 anymore. The time that I used to spend on auditions for Voice 123 has been taken up by the time that I spend streaming. And so there's many
Mhm.
nights where my streaming stops around 10:30. I'm done putting everything away and just kind of unwinding by like 11, and that's when my free time starts. And whether I spend that, you know, grabbing myself a late dinner or watching something with friends or just dealing with more client stuff. Uh, in the last week, there's been a lot of times where I just kind of go to bed at like 1:30 in the morning, and I've had maybe an hour and a half to myself. And that's
Hmm.
just the way life is right now. So, you
Yeah.
know, nothing's stopping me from making time. There's been times where I've taken a week off and just gone to visit friends out of state after I was vaccinated, of course.
Mhm.
But outside of that, it's really just a matter of doing what I need to do to keep my schedule afloat. And sometimes that means sacrificing the time that I have to myself in the process.
Yeah, that's what I've kind of been doing with keeping up with commission projects and stuff like that.
It's a trade-off, It's really nice to be in demand. It's really nice to be working as much as I am, especially because the pandemic removed work for so many people. But that
Hmm.
comes at the trade-off of the more in demand I am, the more demands are being made of me, and the more often I have to decide whether or not I'm going to take on that additional work or if I'm going to say no in order to make more time for myself. But I really like working and I really want to have more work in the future, so I tend to default to saying yes to anyone that wants to hire me, within reason,
Yeah.
of course.
Of course, of course, of course. But yeah. Oh boy, this is probably one that's gonna cause us to laugh our butts off. So I have a video game related question, and it's bugged the hell out of me since it came out. Why in
Okay.
the Netherrealm does Noob Saibot and MK11 sound like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget? Did Ed Boon specifically ask for that when you recorded for Noob, or what?
No, that was a choice that I made when I was recording. So when I did the auditions, they were asking for something wraith-like, not ethereal, not of this world. So I was like, okay, so
Ah,
we're already looking at something that's either ghostly or just, that's what I thought, either ghostly or demonic. And so when I did my two takes, the first take that I did was more of the ghostly. It was up here and a lot wispier. Something almost I might have gone for something more like this, like where it's just like it sounds much more constricted. And then for contrast, when I did the other half of that, when I did take two, I said, okay, well, if I did wispy and high pitched for the first one, I should do something low and demonic for the second one. And so that's where I decided. I said, well, what's a voice that I really liked that sounds low and demonic? Oh, that's right. Um, Black Doom from Shadow the Hedgehog. And so that
ah,
was, no, it literally was me doing my best impression that I could do of
oh,
Black Doom from Shadow the Hedgehog. And apparently it worked with what they wanted for the character. And so I booked it off of that, and that's the voice that I did.
very nice. And also, full disclosure, I'm not asking you to do character voices. Like the last time I did an interview with Lee Tokar, when I talked to him about the other characters that he's voiced, he just instantly just flipped right into his characters like that. I was like, I
Yeah,
didn't ask you to do that, right?
yeah. Some people are insanely talented like that.
Yeah. Next question I got is a general one.
Okay.
When you hear about an anime coming up, do you audition for a specific character you want, or you just go the full gambit of the main cast so the director can find the right fit?
So, when an anime is announced, we don't automatically know whether it's going to get localized or not. What will happen is,
Mhm.
often we will be on the talent roster of studios that are often used for dubbing things. So, for example, I would consider myself to be on the talent roster for Bang Zoom, for Studiopolis, for VSI Media, for Spliced Bread, all of which have dubbed different projects. Now, the client, which owns the project for localization, will hire one of these dubbing studios to do the dubbing work for them. The dubbing studio then has a casting director that will look through the characters, in their eyes, figure out, okay, well, who do we think? Because they may have hundreds of people on their roster. They're not going to want hundreds of auditions for each character. They may narrow it down and say, okay, what are the 5 to 10 people that we think have the best chance of submitting something that fits well for these characters? And then they will send out audition sides to individuals with those character sides. So they'll, I may get an audition that says, here's this anime series we're dubbing. Here's 5 particular characters we'd like you to consider reading for. Here's the deadline to send them back. Now it's up to me how many of those characters that I want to submit for. However, the mentality I tend to take is if I'm being sent sides for a character, then at some point along the way, they said, we think Sean may be able to submit something that would be considered for this character. So I'm going to take as many chances as I'm given, If there's 30 characters in the cast and you only sent me auditions for 5, I'm not going to send you 2 auditions, I'm gonna take my chances. But that's how that happens is, for example, when I auditioned for ReZero, I was only sent 2 character sides. I was sent sides for Subaru and I was sent sides for Reinhardt. And it just happened to be that Subaru was the one that I booked.
Nice. Yeah, I got another one here, and it's kind of JoJo related. Back when I used to do Toonami watch parties with a couple of buddies, I started watching JoJo with Diamond is Unbreakable. Sadly, I started writing the second half of Diamond is Unbreakable, so I didn't see the beginning of the show. Whoops. But I did see the episodes where you voiced the character Toyohiro with the stand Superfly.
Right.
And personally, I like you better in Golden Wind as Guido Mista. That might change with me seeing some of the other shows, but I personally consider Golden Wind my favorite of the JoJo seasons.
I can understand that. I was playing a character that I was more attuned to right off the bat with Guido Mista, and by the time when I came back for Golden Wind, I better understood the energy of the series and like the kind of performance that the characters tend to give off. So it was easier to stay consistent with that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another recent anime I really got in love with was Demon Slayer, and I wasn't expecting you to voice the Swamp Demon in episode 6.
Yeah,
what was it like basically voicing 3 different versions of the Swamp Demon? Kind of reminds me of D. Bradley Baker voicing every clone soldier in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. How does that man do that?
I don't know. He's insanely talented is what he does. He's the go-to for creature voices, if anything. For me, I appreciate it was a nice challenge. Each member of Demon in the Bog had like something different. The main guy was more reserved, more logical. You had the guy, the one that was hyper aggressive, always shouting, and then you had the one that was more feral, doesn't actually say words, just grits his teeth, and was maybe a little bit more growly and baritone. But I enjoyed challenges like that. I seem to have a penchant for voicing 3 characters in the same project and having to make them vocally distinct. But it was a throat ripper for sure. That was one of those roles I was like, can we do this on a Friday so that I have all of the weekend to vocally recover?
Yeah. Oh, damn. Yeah. Here's another one that one of my buddies suggested. If you heard about a Transformers show you wanted to act in, which Transformer would you want to voice? It could be Autobot, Decepticon, whatever.
Oh, I've had a couple.
I kind of see you as Cliff Jumper, but most of these days, Cliff Jumper either dies by getting impaled by Starscream or gets sliced down the middle like in the Bumblebee movie.
Well, I actually, some of the Transformers projects that have come out already, I had a chance to audition for them, and consistently the ones that I would get auditions for were either Bumblebee or Starscream. I personally thought I would have a better rate with Starscream, but I unfortunately have not had any luck yet with actually booking one of those roles, but who knows? I just got to keep trying.
Yeah, that'd actually be kind of sweet. But yeah, kind of going back to my third question, and I mentioned this in one of my emails with you. Back around April 2nd, Funimation announced alongside the 50th anniversary of the Kamen Rider franchise that the manga Fudo Detectives, which is a sequel series to the tokusatsu show Kamen Rider Double, was actually getting an anime adaptation and a simulcast in 2022. Mm-hmm. If you're a fan of Kamen Rider, my apologies if you don't, but I can actually see you voicing the character Ryu Terui, aka Kamen Rider Axel, a red-armored hero with a penchant for objecting to get asked questions, and hilarious in certain situations. When I saw the announcement, a lot of Funimation VAs went nuts, as I'd never seen so many voice actors be secret Conan fans.
I actually, I wasn't aware of that, but it's good to know.
Yeah, and here's another one, because one of my favorite YouTubers on YouTube is Some Call Me Johnny, and I'm actually going to shout him out here. What was it like voicing Revali, the Rito Bullman, in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? From all the videos I've seen of Revali and even Some Call Me Johnny's videos, Revali's kind of an asshole when you really think about it.
I think it's justified to some degree. I mean, yes, he's a little bit bullish or bullyish about how he handles Link, but it comes from a little bit of bitterness and a little bit of hesitation, which I think is entirely reasonable. You know, Revali has been charged with being one of the people to protect Zelda and the Kingdom of Hyrule from a great calamity, and he takes this so seriously that he sequesters himself into the mountains to master a skill that no one has ever seen before that he can use to surprise and subdue the enemy. And he doesn't even bother coming back until he's mastered it. And then all of a sudden, this Link person shows up, you know, no known history, no display of his abilities, and he just expects, or Revali is expected to treat him as a superior. And of course, eventually he proves himself, and Revali begrudgingly accepts this fate. But even then, it's just the idea that he worked so hard in order to achieve what he did and then got upstaged by someone so easily. I can completely understand why he'd feel a little bitter about it. But in terms of how I felt about voicing him, I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and I'm so glad that it turned out as positively as it did. But prior to knowing that people had approved of it, I was scared shitless. I knew that the only previous iteration of a voiced Zelda game was the CDI games, and we all know how well those were received. Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't create another case of that. I wanted people to feel like a Zelda game could be voiced and be taken seriously, or at least thoroughly enjoyed. So it was a big stress point for me, both recording and in the time afterwards. And I really only got to breathe a sigh of relief after the game was out, and people were, for the most part, praising the experience and praising Revali in particular. So I'll just say that I'm super grateful.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I got a couple from my buddy DLBot here, and first one is actually pretty interesting. If you could choose between Mista Stan's Sex Pistols or Subaru's Power Return from Death from ReZero, which one would you really want to have and why?
Probably definitely Return by Death, because Sex Pistols seems to have backfired just as often as it worked. And I feel like I would be more willing to take the risks of things that I don't know, like it's hard to say, because I understand that the power of Return by Death also creates that sort of insanity of knowing that you feel the pain of every death you experienced. And I don't know, maybe in the long term it would cause me to suffer a lot more if every time that I died from natural causes, if I would just rewind to like a couple hours or a couple days before my death, and at that point, you know, that death is unavoidable, so you would just experience that death over and over and over and over again. It would kind of turn into like honestly a permanent hell of a Groundhog Day situation where you'd never actually find peace. But I don't know, like I could get way deeper into that, but I'm just someone who doesn't like the idea of dying at all, because I would never be prepared for death. I wouldn't be ready. I don't understand people who accept death and are ready to go. I plan to go kicking and screaming however that happens. So, but between the two, I'm more inclined to say Return by Death, just because I avoid guns and bullets and shit in general.
Yeah. All right. Next question from my buddy DLBot is, what was the first anime you've ever watched?
First anime I ever watched would actually be Sailor Moon. And that was back during the...
freaking course.
That was back... Well, I don't know. It was either Sailor Moon or Pokemon. I don't know which I actually started seeing first, but they were both around the same time. Pokemon was the one that I woke up and like watched each morning before heading to school. Sailor Moon was the one that I owned on VHS tapes. I only had 3 of them, so like the first 6 episodes, but I watched those 3 VHS tapes so many times over and over and over again. So who knows? You know, I had a nice mix of both shonen and shoujo anime. I got in touch with both my feminine and my masculine side.
Yeah, I kind of have my own little story with winding out a VHS tape. Like, of course, when I grew up, I started one of the first shows I watched was, of course, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Hmm.
And one of the VHS tapes I had was the VHS tape that had the episode where Day of the Dumpster on it.
Oh.
And I watched that tape so many times. My mom bought quite a few copies of it because I kept winding out the tape. I watched it that many times.
Oh my
It
God.
was not even funny.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Power Rangers fan. Of course, because on the video I'm actually wearing a Green Ranger costume.
That's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Back to my some of my other questions here. So, what was it like dubbing Karuna from Gundam Build Divers? I, along with a bunch of other fans, were not expecting Bang Zoom to actually dub both Build Divers and Build Divers Re-Rise. So, how'd you guys manage to keep that dub under wraps for so long?
It was really easy because at the time I was dubbing that, I was already busy with a shitload of other things. So to be honest, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed his personality. I enjoyed, performing as him. But other than that, it kind of fell pretty quickly into the back seat of my memory. And so I'm just grateful that I had a chance for more work, and I'm glad that Bang Zoom was there to help keep interest in the Gundam series alive.
Yeah. I really can't wait to actually sit down and just binge Build Divers and Build Divers Re-Rise. I haven't been able to do it lately.
Mm.
So, here's a question I normally say for the end of these videos. So, are there any anime projects coming up that you're wanting to partake in?
I try, obviously it would be really cool if I could be a part of Beastars. I really enjoyed that franchise. I really enjoy the characters.
Oh, yeah.
It would be cool if I could be involved with that. But otherwise, either because I'm not super active on which anime are coming out, or because I'm trying to avoid feeling jealousy or envy. I don't really sell myself to the degree of, man, I want to be a part of this franchise, or I really hope I get auditions for this. I just focus on doing the best job that I can do with any opportunity that I'm given. If there's something that I'm passionate about, then I will let people know, oh my God, I'm super passionate about this. It'd be really cool if something like this came out and I got a chance to audition for it. And the hope is that, if people know that I'm passionate about it and they become in charge of handing out auditions or making referrals, that they'll consider me. But I would never want it to get to the level of me telling studios, you have to send me stuff for this, or you need to localize this so that I can get a chance to read for it. There's just too many risks of that coming off as desperate or entitled or demanding. So I'm just grateful for what I've gotten to do, and I just continue to do the best that I can and hope that it will pay off for me in the future.
Sweet. Yeah. Here's another strange one for my friends and fans. When I was looking at your BTVA page to figure out questions for this interview, I noticed you voiced the characters Rock, Creepox, and the monster Dragonflay in the Power Rangers Megaforce video game on the 3DS.
Ah, yes.
How in the world did that come about? An anime voice actor voicing villains in a Power Rangers game.
Bang Zoom was doing the dub for it, and I was on their talent roster, so I got auditions for it.
Nice. I honestly didn't know that Bang Zoom actually did the dubbing for the Megaforce game, because normally BTVA does not list that.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same process as always. Project gets slated for a dub, they hand out auditions. I audition for characters, or no, I think in that case, since it was a smaller project, they might have actually just cast me for those characters, and because they had faith that I could provide different voices for each of them.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, one of the funny things is that when I looked at the cast for the Megaforce game, Kelsey was voiced by Jamieson Price. It's like, the funny thing is that every time when I watch an anime, Jamieson Price is in almost everything I watch. It's like, dang it, Jamieson Price, stay away from me! Don't you know I have a freaking restraining order on you?
Oh, do you actually?
No. It's just a joke.
Oh, okay.
It's just that Jamieson Price keeps popping up in everything I watch. It's like, why does this guy keep following me around?
Well, is he good at what he does?
Yeah, he's good at what he does.
Well, there's your explanation.
Yeah. Oh man. Anyway, next up is you actually provided a lot of voices for the YouTube series Marvel TLDR. What was it like voicing characters like Cyclops, J. Jonah Jameson, Deadpool, among other iconic Marvel characters?
I was really worried about trying to make sure that I was matching the references for the voices as best as I could. But really, the moment where it hit me was there was a brief stint where I was working at Disneyland California Adventure, and sometimes I would have to enter the park through the other side, through the Disneyland side. And there were TVs in the cast area, and they would air things related to Disney, whether it was like episodes of DuckTales or, commercials or promos. And at one point, Marvel TLDR, because of the Marvel property that they owned, Marvel TLDR was playing on the TV, and it was one of the episodes that I voiced characters in. And it was really weird because I heard myself and I did like a double take and looked at the TV screen, and I wanted to like tell people, oh my God, that's me. But like nobody cared. Like no, everyone was focused on their own jobs. So I couldn't really celebrate it, but it was just a nice little fist pump moment to myself.
Nice. All right. And considering the fact that I mentioned him before, thank you, Dalebot, but Subaru Natsuki from ReZero. What was it like playing this character and essentially acting like you're losing your freaking mind? Because from what I've read, Subaru deals with some insane shit in that show.
He does. Yeah. It was cool getting to explore all those different emotions. I got to practice my screaming. I got to practice my crying, which I actually consider much harder than screaming because you still have to make it sound authentic without overselling it. I had to explore some vulnerable sides of myself in regards to relationships and how I feel about how people feel about me. And I'm just very, very grateful that the first lead role that I played in an anime was something so varied and something popular enough to get a second season. And from what I've heard, people are enjoying the second season just as much as, if not more than, the first one. And I'm just super grateful that it's getting so much attention.
Yeah. And my next question is kind of on the flip side of that. I'm actually not a real big fan of the isekai genre of anime. I just feel it's like too played out. Some animes never change up the formula, and as a result are incredibly boring to sit through. What are your personal pet peeves in anime, if you don't mind me asking?
Pet peeves in anime. I'd say the only one. I mean, it's anime. It's supposed to be, fantastical. So I don't place too many demands on it. But I'd say the only pet peeve, if I have one, are characters that are used to push harmful stereotypes, like a female character that just acts lecherous towards all other girls, and people who wave it off when they're like, oh, that's just her being her, or oh, would you stop that? Like, I don't approve of that at all. I get a little bugged if there's characters that seem really interesting that are just there for a particular scene and then never show up ever again.
One-offs.
Yeah, like one-offs. And then the only one that I can think of is when solutions come up that demand some sort of explanation as to, well, why does this work now? Or why didn't this get applied earlier? And there is no explanation given. They just solve the problem and then move on with their lives, and it's never addressed. Aldnoah Zero was really good about this, because with Aldnoah Zero, every time that I was like, okay, hold on, how the fuck is this possible? Within like 5 minutes, they would explain how it was possible. So I was really impressed with how it handled that. But not every series is that good at it.
Yeah. Damn. All right. Number 15 I got here is like, actually, congrats on landing the role of Kai Kisuke, apologies if I butchered that name, and Nero from the upcoming Final Fantasy VII Remake DLC. Yeah. I still was not expecting stuff from freaking Dirge of Cerberus to return in future games, as I thought fans hated that game. I personally liked playing Dirge of Cerberus, and now I predict a couple of my fans beginning to crucify me in the comments. Apologies in advance.
I've heard it from both sides. So, for the people who aren't a big fan of it, I'm sorry. It sounds like it's just an extra installment, so you don't technically have to play it. Or you can just play to make fun of it. I don't care. I already got paid. And if you really enjoy it, then I hope you continue to enjoy their appearance in Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, I haven't been able to play Final Fantasy VII Remake because, again, pandemic, reinvention of myself, and a bunch of other things. But when I saw the trailer for the DLC and I saw the whole bit with Deep Ground and Weiss from Dirge of Cerberus coming in. It was like, I did a double take. It was like, what the hell are you doing here?
It's a welcome surprise for some, to be sure.
Yeah, for a lot of people especially. But yeah, so that's actually all the questions I got for you. So, slight repeat of a previous question. What can fans expect from you in the future as we sign off?
Who knows, to be honest. It's just as much my own roller coaster of an adventure as it is one for you. You know, I'm glad that I'm still in demand. I'm glad that I'm doing a lot of varied work between video games and anime. I'd really like if I could start getting into Western animation, but I haven't had much luck with booking roles on that yet. But as you've seen, whether, you know, between Nero and Kai Kisk and all these other announcements that I've gotten to make, I'm being trusted with bigger and bigger things, and I'm meeting a lot of new clients and having a lot of new opportunities. So I hope to continue that. If you want to, I have a Twitch channel where I just stream games to share the experience with you guys. If you want to get involved with that, it's twitch.tv/sonicmega. My announcements and giveaways all get posted on Twitter, twitter.com/sonicmega. And, you know, at heart, I'm just a guy who's trying to do what he enjoys and do it the best that he can. And if you want to support me along the way, I will totally welcome you into that family. But don't feel obligated. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to keep our heads above water. And if you need to focus on yourself, I completely understand.
Yeah, that's pretty much me in general. Like, full disclosure, ever since some of the crazy shit that happened to me in December, I've just been trying to figure things out, figure out what I wanted to do for practically the rest of my life, because I thought me being a PR person would be one of my career choices, and well, that didn't end up happening for the most part. So I've just decided, well, let me give interviewing a shot. So my first interview was with Mike Pollock a couple of months ago, and that went pretty well.
Right.
And then right out of the blue, Lee Tokar followed me on Twitter, and I just sent him a DM saying, hey, would you like to do an interview with me? And he said almost immediately, sure. I was like, wow. And after that, I did like a text interview with Kyle Higgins, who did the Power Rangers comics on Boom Studios. And he's currently doing Radiant Black at Image Comics. So he's doing pretty well for himself.
Nice. Very nice.
And of course, I actually wanted to do a Skype interview with Kyle Higgins. But of course, that didn't end up happening because Kyle's schedule is so chaotic.
For sure.
And I wanted to do an interview with David Kay, but that didn't end up happening because his schedule is currently chaotic with a bunch of other things. Like, I think he's still recording audio for the new Ratchet and Clank game coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably one of the reasons why we weren't able to do it. But yeah, I'm still trying to line up a bunch of different interviews coming up in the next few months. So it'll be interesting to see what I can manage in that amount of time.
It should be, and I hope the best for you as well.
Thanks, man. But yeah, you can catch me on all of my social medias, of course, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all that other stuff. But yeah, this has been Jesse Elias, Self-Check Millennium with Sean Chiplock, saying good night and good luck. Later, guys.